Introducing our first speaker, Toastmaster Canonica. The speech title, Sugar, the Tobacco of the New Millennium. Introduction, sugar is the worst carb there is. No other carb even comes close. It represents a particular health risk for kids and adults over 50 years old. But the sugar industry has gone to great lengths for many years to keep the truth about the danger of sugar from the public. Let's spend the next few minutes looking at why. Sugar, the new tobacco of the new millennium. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Frank. Sugar. Hopefully we know some things. Did you know that we eat more sugar today in 2 weeks?
Oh, God.
Than we did in 1 year in the 1800s. This is not a normal part of our diet to eat it in these quantities. Did you know that this is the worst carb you can eat? It causes a host of diseases and illnesses that I'll show you. Also, most of the carbs that you eat convert to sugar, and that's where you get weight gain and all kinds of other things. But sugar is the end product carb, which is the worst thing we can deal with. It is also the leading cause of many diseases in children and adults over 50. You probably have heard a lot about kids getting type 2 diabetes. That's becoming almost an epidemic. Also, adults over 50, that's becoming a huge problem. These are some of the things that sugar causes. Look at this. Diabetes. 10% of our kids in this country have this now. Insulin resistance, another form of diabetes. Heart disease. Rapid growth of cancer cells. If you have cancer, the way that sugar metabolizes it accelerates the growth of the cancer cells. Cavities and tooth decay, you see, we knew that stuff. Wrinkles. All right, so not as bad as maybe diabetes. Learning disabilities in children. Stress and an immune system slowdown. So it's not just gaining weight and getting cavities. Did you know that it is also toxic? Too much sugar can kill you. Sugar industry knows this stuff, and they've been supporting research and suppressing this information for years. They hire researchers. They fund ad hoc research. They have the sugar industry, the Sugar Institute, where they do these studies, and you probably get very little information saying that sugar is not good for you. It's all a controlled process. They also donate millions of dollars to politicians to not get these stories out, to not push for research to be public, and to not have competitive research challenging findings. They don't want you to know about how harmful sugar can be. History of sugar. This actually started back in like the 7th century in the Middle East. They started growing and harvesting sugar in the Middle East. That was also where they started to develop slavery. They put poor people into slavery to harvest sugar. Sugar and slavery. That was also exported to the New World, to the islands that we have down here that are controlled by the French and the Spanish and British. We still, to this day, have huge sugar plantations, domino, people like that. And they needed slaves to work this. So they would import slaves from Europe and then turn residents in the islands into slaves to harvest sugar. Sugar versus honey is a sweetener. You think honey's good for you, why don't you use it as a sweetener? The problem you have is that honey does not melt in cold beverages. It'll stay sort of like a blob, like those lava lights. You look at that. So sugar can kind of blend and move. Hey, nice and neat, and you have liquid types of sugar. But honey would actually be better for you. Still a little fattening, but not a little side effects. But it's only really good in hot beverages. So this is a plus for sugar. Sugar and cigarettes. This is an interesting one that blew me away. If you don't have sugar in tobacco, like in cigars, pipes, and you inhale it, you'll cough, you can't hold it in. Sugar allows you to hold tobacco in your lungs.
Oh, wow.
Because what they do with tobacco, and this was shocking to me, is that when they prepare it, and they, I forget what they call it, you harvest it and you, I think it's called fluing or something. As they're like prepping it to become actual tobacco that you can use, they coat it with sugar. So that way, what happens is when you smoke a cigarette, you can hold it in your lungs without coughing. And what they've done, they found that cigarettes initially were very harsh with women. So there were a lot of cigarettes targeted for women, and they would add more sugar to it. Sugar We use billions and billions of tons of sugar a year in the cigarette industry. Targeting children. Sunday shows with kids, breakfast cereals and cookies, it's all sugar, sugar, sugar. There's been a campaign the last couple of years. I think the Obamas did that with Michelle. It was too much sugar, cut down the sugar. That's since, all regulations have since been thrown out the window last year. Oh yeah, smoking is good for you, sugar's good. Sugar is making a comeback now, but they were finding because of all the problems with children, you got to kind of get rid of that. Political cloud of sugar. Obviously, the sugar industry donates millions and millions of dollars to the sugar industry. So you rarely hear bad things, or if you hear it, they kind of get off subject and jump right off it. So it's a toxic situation. Research studies. There were a lot of research studies funded over the years, and all to point in the positive direction of sugar. Domino actually conducted a survey and issued results that said 3 teaspoons of sugar, you're sitting down, right, is better for you than eating an apple, because there's more sugar in that apple. So you're better off having 3 teaspoons of sugar versus an apple. Look it up. Conclusion. We can't really get away from sugar. It's in almost everything we eat. But there are natural sugars, and the real issue is additive sugar. And us going from having incredible amounts of sugar in our diet is just causing a host of problems, and the problems are going to get worse. What can you do? There's everything. Moderate. Be careful. If you have diabetes, you're going to look at it one way. If you have issues with weight or heart, you're going to be more conscious of sugar. But we should look at that going in. Do I need to add more sugar to it? You go to see products that say sugar-free, and then you look, and there's a lot of sugar, but it says no added sugar, a little asterisk. That means there's probably more than enough sugar in there for you. So just be careful. And that's what I got out of this whole presentation. This great book was a bestseller last year. Over 100 pages of footnotes. The sugar industry did not challenge this author, but it's still true. And this guy has been studying, and if you can see, back to 1939, sugar reports and whatnot. With this book, The Casing in Sugar, it's something really to look at, a real eye-opener. So hopefully